Country care to clothing flair. And do we really appreciate the good things in life? Hi, this is your country uncle here, Uncle John, telling you stories about family farmers and the wisdom of wool. I've spent 40 years working in the wool industry, 20 years on farm and 20 years as an accountant, advising wool growers. But the best year of my life is jackarooing in Queensland. Oh, we had so much fun. Chapter 2.11 The Appreciation of the Land. The early September sun rose over the hills, painting the sky in pastel shades of apricot and lavender. Mist curled around the gum trees and softened the edges of Joe's world. The farm, tucked away beyond the last reach of the tarred road, was waking birds chirped in the pepper trees. Sheep stirred in the paddocks and the wind teased the long grass in the gentle waves. In this quiet, Joe watched the day begin from his kitchen window. A steaming mug of hand and boots already muddied from his first rounds. His farm was more than a patch of land, more than a business. It was in his inheritance, handed down like a cherished story, each chapter written by calloused hands and resilient hearts. The land had shaped his family, and in return his family had shaped the land. Through drought and flood, laughter and argument, the farm was the heartbeat of their lives, a rhythm old than memory. Joe grew up with red dirt beneath his nails and the lowering cattle in the morning chorus. His earliest memories were tangled with scent of hay and eucalypts, the warmth of his mother's embrace and the steady reassurance of his father's presence. Yet Joe felt the weight of legacy even as a child. Michael spoke often of the old days, scraping through the drought in '82, rebuilding after the bushfires, celebrating Daisy's birthday with a bumper wheat harvest. The land remembers, Michael would say, eyes crinkling in the corners. Every year it's a new story. It's ours to write, if we are willing. Joe's adolescence unfolded in the shadows of the farm's demands. He learned to mend fences, drive the battered Hilux, tend to sick lambs, plant ryegrass in the arching dry. He watched his parents shoulder the burden together, Margaret's gentle hands as adept to the ledger as they were to the newborn calf. Michael's quiet strength in the face of failed crops and government paperwork. Joe admired their resilience, their pride in stewardship. At night, the family gathered around the cracked kitchen table and planned the next day's work, to share worries about rain and market prices. The farm demanded all of them, time, sweat, love and sometimes tears. But it gave something back, purpose, belonging, a sense of woven into the story of land itself. Margaret was the heart of the home. She managed the accounts, coordinated the lambing and still found time to volunteer at the Rural Fire Brigade. Daisy, quick-witted and ambitious, left for university in Brisbane to return each summer, drawn by the farm's magnetic pull. Daisy was torn between her city job and the land she loved. The family's discussion evolved from simple chores to bigger questions. Should they invest in drought-resistant crops? Lease out a paddock? Take on seasonal workers to ease the load. Margaret's influence grew more pronounced. She advocated for new technology, solar panels, rainwater harvesting systems, livestock and tracking apps. She encouraged Joe and Daisy to contribute ideas, to challenge tradition when needed. Margaret's autonomy was a source of pride, her ability to navigate both farm and family with wisdom and grit. Under her guidance, the farm began to adapt, embracing innovation while honouring the old ways. Joe grew with his mother's struggle too, balancing endless farm work with family care, with moments of herself few and far between. But Margaret's thrived on the challenge, finding joy in nurturing both her children and her land. When Joe married Alex, a local school teacher, the family expanded. Alex brought fresh perspective and boundless optimism. Their children, Daisy and Ben, grew up much as Joe had, with muddy boots and pets endless around the house. They learned to feed lambs, pick fruit, and listen to the distant rumble of storm clouds. Joe and Alex resolved to raise their children with values of hard work, empathy, and independence. They celebrated small victories, a successful lambing season, the first time Daisy helped with shearing, Ben's proud harvest with his vegetable patch. Michael taught Ben to repair the tractor. Margaret passed down secret recipes of plum jam. Family wisdom flowed across generations. Joe remembered how his grandfather showed him the best way to plant by moonlight, and how Daisy learned to read clouds for signs of rain. Though good years and bad, the family came together. Birthdays celebrated with roast lambs, storm weathered with extra blankets and candles. Tradition endured. The annual sheepdog trials, bonfire nights, Christmas pudding stirred by every hand. Their memories formed the glue that held the family together, especially when times grew tough. The farm's resilience was tested repeatedly. One January, a heat wave struck, with temperatures soaring over 40 degrees for 2 weeks straight. The dam shrank to cracked mud, pastures withered and sheep clustered under scant shade. Joe and Alex worked from dawn till dusk, hauling water, trimming dead branches and praying for rain. Daisy drove in from Brisbane, leaving a city live for help. Every member of the family pitched in. Daisy and Ben carried buckets. Margaret coordinated relief supplies with neighbours. Michael repaired the windmill. The days blurred, sleepless nights, anxious mornings. Joe's hands bled with shovelling. His spirit flagged. Arguments flared over the rationing water, over whether to sell off stock or raise another scorched season. In the midst of the crisis, Joe recalled his father's words, "The land remembers." Yet the farm also offered moments of quiet joy. A sunset shared with Alex on the veranda, Daisy's laughter as she splashed through the puddles, Ben's fascination with insects in the vegetable garden. Joe felt the strain, sleepless nights, anxiety during the dry spells, exhaustion after long days, but he was never alone. This family's camaraderie, the sense of shared purpose, brought hope in the hard times. Joe understood that farming, for all its rewards, carried risk to mental health. He saw friends struggle with isolation and stress, witnessed the toll it took on his marriage and children. Alex advocated for opening conversations about well-being, encouraged Joe to connect with locals, supporting groups to seek help when the burden grew too heavy. Margaret became active in rural health advocacy, helping set up phone helplines and organise workshops for coping with farm strength. Daisy and Ben learned to check in the neighbours after the storms, sharing food and laughter. The community rallied together during the crisis, bushfires, floods and markets, proving no way was a family truly alone. Slowly, Joe saw attitude changes. Alex confronted the children. Margaret coordinated calls for insurance and disaster relief. Michael gripped Joe's shoulder, his own eyes wet. "We can rebuild," he said quietly. "We always have." The family rallied, repairing fences, salvaged what remained, helping neighbours with losses with even greater. Joe's repairs slowly gave way to determination. It was a living legacy sustained by love, tenacity and shared hope. The farm was the heartbeat of their lives, its pulse strong and steady. In every sunrise, every lesson learned, and every shared meal, the stories of the land and the family grew inseparable. Joe watched Daisy and Ben chase the chooks in the orchard, just as he and Daisy once had. He saw Alex teaching them how to bake bread, Margaret and Michael sharing wisdom by the fire. The generations turned, the seasons changed, and the story continued. From the quiet dawn of the hush of the evening, Joe knew that farm's harvest was not just in the grain or the wool, but in the unity of family, woven together, inseparable, enduring as the land itself. And as the heartbeat of the farm echoed through his life, Joe smiled, knowing that this story would outlast even the longest drought or the wildest storm. For in the tapestry of rural Australia, the threads of family and farm are forever intertwined, strong together, shaping the future, one day, one season, one story at a time. But it will always be appreciated. Righto, that was chapter 2.11, Appreciation of the Land. And now we go into Coyote, part 2 of 2, the benefits of wool clothing.
The more you know about your clothes, the more you'll appreciate them. And with that, let's jump in. Okay, let's start with the most popular material used. Correction, it's actually the second most popular material used, and that's wool, the quintessential sweater material. Wool is a textile fiber made from the fleece or hair of animals that typically thrive in hostile climates. Think sheep ranging the cold, wet Scottish Highlands, or goats traversing some high-elevation mountain path in Central Asia. Makes sense how we came to see this as great stuff to clothe ourselves with. Now, there are many different types of wool, but all share some common characteristics. Wool is a very efficient insulator. In other words, it's very warm for its weight. It's also breathable, temperature regulating, moisture repellent, and will actually keep you warm when wet, and it's odor resistant. Wool is really amazing stuff and far and away my favorite sweater material. The only real downsides to wool are that it's a bit finickier to wash and maintain, it's generally more expensive than other materials, it's not always ideal for super warm climates, and some select varieties are not the most durable. But other than that, it's hard to fault this stuff, and honestly, I think a lot of these downsides are easily bypassed. Now, before getting into all the different types of wool, I think we need to briefly touch on the two different types of yarn that are used to make wool, and that's worsted spun and woolen spun. Because the feel and performance of the sweater will be greatly affected depending on which is used. Now, I was hesitant to get into this because, for one, I have just a rudimentary understanding, and also, there's just already a lot of information in this video and I didn't want to overwhelm people, but I really do think it is important in just helping you visualize what a sweater is going to feel like, as well as other things. So I'm going to keep this as tight and simple as possible, and to all the knitters out there, if I'm wrong or way oversimplifying, please let me know. So sweaters can be made with two main types of yarn, worsted spun and woolen spun. Worsted spun yarn is relatively smooth, dense, tightly woven, and is often found in more refined sweaters or those with intricate knit patterns. Woolen spun yarn is softer, loftier, fuzzier, and commonly used in more casual sweaters. So sweaters made with worsted spun yarn typically feel denser, look smoother, are less prone to stretching and pilling, but aren't as warm since there's less room in the fabric to trap air. While sweaters made with woolen spun yarn will have a more casual fuzzy look, be warmer, more room for trapped air, feel lighter, and move more easily with your body, but are more prone to pilling and stretching. So this sweater right here, I am fairly certain was made with woolen spun wool, and I absolutely love it. It is probably my favorite sweater of all time. It is so comfortable. It is light and warm and lofty and cozy, and it's amazing. You just don't really feel like you're wearing anything. You have such great freedom of movement. It does pill quite a bit, but other than that, it's hard to fault a thing. Now this sweater right here, I believe is made with worsted spun wool. And it has a kind of denser feel to it. It's a little bit more drapey and flowy. It's much more thin. It's not nearly as warm as this sweater, and I bet you it weighs as much, if not more. In the 5+ years of hard wearing this thing, it hardly pilled at all. So that is one thing to really note about worsted wool. It does not pill like woolen spun wool does. But overall, the wearing experience of this woolen wool sweater is pretty different than this worsted spun wool sweater. Now, I won't get hung up on always trying to accurately identify what type of yarn was used to make whatever sweater you're taking a look at, but instead just consider it because it was a deliberate choice by the brand, and it will just help you get an overall idea of what that brand had in mind when designing that particular sweater. Okay, now let's talk about the major different types of wool and each of their own unique characteristics. First up, lamb's wool or virgin wool. Coming from the first shearing of a young sheep or lamb, lamb's wool has shorter, finer fibers, resulting in a very soft, warm, and elastic material. However, it is not as durable as wool from older sheep and tends to pill more, so it's generally used in more refined pieces. And though generally more expensive than wool from older sheep, not all lamb's wool is created equal, and there are plenty of low-cost brands that use lamb's wool, so it's not necessarily a marker of quality or premiumness, but I do think it at least partially signals that the brand prioritized comfort over durability and design. So this sweater right here is made of 100% lamb's wool. I like this sweater a lot. I wear it a lot. I'm kind of wearing it out. The cuffs are getting a little flared out on it. It's from Polo Ralph Lauren, and yeah, it's great. It's comfortable, soft, no problems at all. But I'd be lying to say there's something really specific about it that screams lamb's wool. Like if someone handed this to me, I wouldn't be like, yup, that's 100% lamb's wool. I'd be like, yeah, it's nice. But here's an example, I think, where you can really see what lamb's wool is capable of. So this is a cardigan from Emporio Armani. So it's not the really high-end Armani, you know, the Giorgio Armani, but it's still pretty good quality stuff. And this lamb's wool is really soft. This is made of 100% lamb's wool. It's like, it's nice. You can feel, and it's super thin, and it's like, look at that. Look at that. Cool stuff. Either way, I think this is more representative of what lamb's wool is capable of, where this is just nice.
Thanks, Coyote. Greatly appreciated. And the key takeaway is the more you know about something, the more you appreciate it. And remember, life's short. Find a joy. So you always remember it, you always enjoy.